Saul's story begins with him giving witness to people killing Stephen. But it changes because he hears what heaven has to say about him. And so he no longer even responds to the name Saul. He becomes a new person because the voice from heaven says something different about who he is. May we all have that ability to know where we stand in heaven so we can withstand anything on earth. Even when it costs you. Even when it costs you something. Because it almost always does. When the Jewish midwives were told by Pharaoh to get rid of these Jewish boys when they're born and they don't do it, you know there are consequences. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't listen to what Nebuchadnezzar had to say about them, they ended up in a fiery furnace. When Daniel didn't listen to what he was told to do in Babylonian exile, he was thrown into a lion's den. When the early Christians didn't say Caesar is Lord because they believed that Jesus is Lord, there were consequences. And there continue to be those for us today. Now, often Christians think that we're persecuted if we stand up and say anything. And that's true, but sometimes that happens just because we're rude, just because we're unkind and we're unloving, and we masquerade that as though it's Christian persecution. And the reason it's wrong is because often we find ourselves standing up against people. And even Paul himself will tell the church at Ephesus that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And so it's never against us versus them. It's not against you against another person. What we stand up against are the powers and principalities. We stand up against hatred and apathy and fear. It's not against people. But you stand on this earth because you know where you stand in heaven.